Hello everyone, this is Liz with EC QuickBooks Training. In today's video, I'm going to go over how to carefully record your deposits in QuickBooks Online. So let's get started. In order to have a deposit field on your invoice, we need to make sure that deposit field is turned on. So let's go to the gear icon, Account and Settings, then Sales tab. Under Sales Form Content, just tick on Deposit, and this will show a deposit field on your invoices. So now let's create an invoice with a deposit. I'm going to create this invoice as a design project, and I'm going to say it's $5,000 for this project. And I'm going to say I received $1,000 as a deposit. Under Message on Statement, I'm going to type in deposit recorded. The reason I'm doing this is because when I save and close this invoice, I'm able to see in the memo which invoice had the deposit recorded or applied to. Now what I want to do is I want to go into the financials and take a look and make sure we understand what deposits are doing to the financials. So I'm going to select the invoice date of which was today, and I want to take a look at that invoice. We see it here under design income of $5,000, which was the project amount, the total project amount. So it is recorded correctly. That is what we will get when the project is completed. If we select cash method and run report, we see that QuickBooks has recorded that $1,000 as income because it was cash we already received as of today. So let's take a look now at the balance sheet and take a look at the checking account. And let's see if we also see that deposit in there. And here it is. So QuickBooks so far is recording the deposit correctly. If we were to receive a deposit today and record an invoice and record a deposit, this is being recorded correctly. And when we reconcile our bank account, we can check this deposit off. Now, let's say though that you received a deposit a month ago, but you did not invoice the client. What will happen? What happens in QuickBooks? Let's take a look at that because that's very important. Let's say you received the deposit and you just recorded straight deposit into QuickBooks without recording an invoice. As we can see, here is the month, a month ago, I received a deposit and it went into design income. But as we could see earlier, we already saw that as of 9/18, as of today, this deposit of $1,000 was recorded through the invoice, not as a bank deposit in QuickBooks. So what's happening? What's happening is that we're overstating our income. If we go back to the profit and loss to take a look at our income, and we're going to date it 8/18/20 to today, run report. Let's take a look at the design income. What do we see? Let's group this by name. Okay, so we have here the invoice of $5,000 and then the deposit for this customer of $1,000. So this is not correct. We're actually overstating it by $1,000. It's saying for this project we're receiving a total of $6,000, which is not correct. So how can we use the deposit field correctly? We can use the deposit field correctly if you are recording a deposit the same time you're doing an invoice. And I don't know if you noticed, but this section right here where it says payment method, deposit to checking appeared when I entered the deposit. Take a look what happens when I delete it. It's no longer there. So when we take off deposit and we have this deposit going into the checking, we're actually recording already that deposit. But let's say we got it a month ago and we did not create this invoice, and then now it's September and we're doing an invoice because the project's been completed or whatever the situation may be, and we're like, oh, we have to create an invoice. I create the invoice. Oh, I got a deposit a month ago. This is not going to work, because as you saw, we're going to be overstating the deposit. So what do we do if this happens? What do we do if we receive deposits first without creating the invoice? Well, what we want to do is when you get a deposit, you want to record it to customer deposits. And when you come into the invoice here, we want to change this to undeposited funds, because it's not going to the checking account. And I'm going to show you how to record it. So I'm going to change this to undeposited funds, take it out of our checking account. I'm going to hit save. I'm also going to go and look for the initial deposit. So when I do the initial deposit, I want to make sure that it's right here, 818, that I record this to customer deposits, not to design income. I want to make sure I record it to customer deposit. So if a month ago I received this check, I would have wanted it to record to customer deposit. It's a liability to us. We owe our customer this project or this services, and we haven't earned it yet. So I want to save and close. So when I go and record the invoice of 5,000, it's right here. And as you can see, that 1,000 was removed from our design income. When we record this invoice and then we say, I received a month ago 1,000, we want to make sure it goes to undeposited funds. And then what we want to do is when we record the invoice, we have to go back to make a deposit. We're going to say 918. And what we want to do, we see the invoice here. We want to select it. And then here we want to say we received it from Cool Cars, and the account here is going to be customer deposits. And we're going to do a negative 1,000. The reason we're doing this is because we're not really depositing this 1,000 on 918 because we did it on 818. So we want to do a negative deposit. And if we know the check information, we can always put it here. And then in the memo we're going to say applied customer deposit received on 08/18/2020. A note just so you know that we're applying the deposit to this invoice. Okay, and we could say to invoice, it doesn't have the invoice, but we can definitely, I don't see the invoice here, but we can definitely put here apply to invoice and whatever your invoice number is. And then this deposit will be 0, and we can have it go into the checking. When we do a reconciliation for September, we could just take it off and it will disappear from our reconciliation. So now we're going to hit save and close, and we're going to go back into our report and make sure that we see that it's being recorded correctly. So I'm going to do 08/18/20, which was the deposit date, run the report. Let's take a look at this. I only see the $5,000, which is what I want to see. That's the invoice that I created. So I'm not overstating my income with 1,000. Let's go take a look at our balance sheet, and let's take a look at what's happening in our checking account. What's happening in our checking account and our register for customer deposits. So I'm going to run this report. Let's take a look at the checking account. Group by name. I want to make sure I only see $1,000, and it's right here. The deposit was 0. This 1,000 was the initial payment that we got for the deposit. This was to apply this deposit to the invoice. Okay, so that looks good. I don't see that as a duplication. Now let's take a look at the register for customer deposits and take a look at that. It's 0, which is what we want. And we could see here that this was the initial deposit to start work of 1,000. And then we applied that 1,000 to the invoice. So now we are actually recording this correctly. Now, once again, this happens if you don't, this is the workflow that needs to be recorded if you don't create an invoice when you receive your deposit. If you receive a deposit or you gave your customer an invoice and you're saying, I need $1,000, and then you get the deposit, then you don't need to create this extra step. But what happens is we want to make sure that we're recording transactions when they happen. Otherwise, you will find trouble when you go and reconcile your bank accounts, or you can duplicate or overstate your income, and we don't want that. I hope that this has helped. I will put another video up for how to do this on the desktop version. The desktop version is a lot easier, and I have a video called customer prepayments or customer deposits. I will link it somewhere here on this video, so you could take a look at that video if you use the desktop. But as far as QuickBooks Online, this would be the way to record it correctly. Please don't forget to subscribe for more how-tos, tips and tricks, and troubleshooting for QuickBooks. I will see you on the next one.